all, it's Lara back with your horoscopes for the new moon in Leo on July 28th, 2022. Thanks for being here. So I'm recording in my room today because in my bedroom because, kids are off school. We're moving rooms in the house, so I'm going to have a different office space and just all the chaos. So here I am, bear with me. I also, this is completely off the cuff today because I haven't had a chance to really make any notes. And I think this will test my knowledge, and how well things stick in the old brain here. So anyway, let's get on with it. The new moon in Leo is happening July 28th, like I said. And it is at 1:55 p.m. Eastern time, so you can adjust accordingly for your time zone. And it takes place at 5 degrees 38 minutes in the fixed fire sign of Leo. So if you have placements around that area of the chart, around 5 degrees Leo, give or take 3 to 5 degrees on either side, then this is a really potent new moon for you. And this will also impact sort of more personally or potently those people that have placements at around that same area in the other fixed signs. So in Leo's opposite sign, which is Aquarius, or Taurus or Scorpio, where, as you might know, we've got eclipses, another set of eclipses happening in the fall, right? So I touched on that a little bit in last video that I did on the Capricorn full moon. I also touched a little bit on the Mars-Uranus and North Node conjunction that's happening actually this week, right around the time, just after the new moon in Leo. We have that coming exact. And so I'm going to bring that into the conversation here because it would, it's a pretty big deal. And so if I just completely neglected it, that wouldn't be very responsible of me as an astrologer. So I'm going to touch on that as well. When I go through the horoscopes for each sign, I'm going to talk about where this new moon in Leo is falling in each of your charts. And I'm also going to touch on the Mars Uranus-North Node conjunction, because like I said, that's a fairly big deal. So let's break this down bit by bit before we go through all 12 signs. So the new moon in Leo is in this really pleasant configuration with Jupiter in Aries. So in a trine, right? Trines are conversations of ease and flow, where trines are of the nature of Jupiter itself. So they are buoyant, uplifting, cause for optimism, expansive, this sort of thing. Sometimes, lucky or fortunate. And so we've got this new moon, which at every new moon, the sun and the moon come together to conceive of something new, right? And in this case, that's in the sign of Leo. So wherever Leo falls in your personal chart is where this new beginning is occurring for you, right? This initiation, let's call it, or this inspiration. Leo is a fire sign. Fire signs are often associated with that idea of inspiration, right? Inspired. So when sort of like, the spirit moves us, so to speak. So there is an inspiring quality to this new moon because of the trine to Jupiter, and because, this is in a fire sign and Jupiter's in a fire sign, right? And Aries. Jupiter is about to station retrograde as well. And when a planet stations retrograde, and actually that is on the day of the new moon. So I have my honeycomb collective, sort of astrological day planner here that I use all the time. And it's really great. And so I'm just looking at the page here for July, and Jupiter is stationing retrograde on the day of the new moon. So that whenever a planet is stationing to either turn retrograde or direct, there is an amplification, right, of that energy. It's like a real kind of, it's in a holding pattern for a hot minute. And so we really feel it. And this is Jupiter in a fire sign, a new moon in a fire sign. So it's got that inspirational quality to it, that initiatory quality to it, that like, it is very indicative of something new. So it's a new moon, but it's also in you know, configured to the fire signs, which are like that spark of initiation, right? So we can look for whatever this new beginning is to have that quality to it. And not only is the new moon in a trine, so Jupiter is at 8 degrees of Aries and just stationing retrograde at the time of the new moon, but also we've got some other things going on that are really relevant. So one of the things that I don't always talk about, but bring in if I feel like it's particularly relevant, are the asteroids. And in this case, we actually have asteroid Ceres in a conjunction with the new moon. So the new moon is at 5 degrees, Ceres is at 2 degrees of Leo. So within 3-degree range, which is, you know, really when things are very active, when aspects are active. So we've got Ceres here in Leo, and Ceres is, in the mythology, the goddess of agriculture. Put a pin in that because we're going to circle back to that in a little bit. But Ceres is the mother of, Ceres was called Demeter in the Greek vernacular and Ceres in Roman mythology, right? So Ceres was the mother of Persephone. And if you know anything about that mythology, Persephone was captured by Hades, Pluto, taken to the underworld, right? And so she was separated from her mother, Ceres. And Ceres, you know, was not very happy about this, was very angry about it. And long story short, there was a deal worked out where Ceres would spend half the year in the underworld and half the year, you know, in the upper world and on Earth. And so there is this connection between Ceres and the notion of mothering, but like the cycles of femalehood in a sense, right? So being the maiden, the mother, the crone, like Ceres is very connected to those transitions and those cycles. And so it's interesting. This is particularly interesting to me and where things are at right now in our house, because this is a new moon, right, in Leo, which actually happens. My son is turning 18 on the day just before the new moon. And of course, that's a big deal. And so, you know, he's moving out of kind of, you know, childhood really. And so as a mother, I'm feeling that transition, right? So, but there's also the connection to agriculture. So I'm going to speak about that in a minute, as I said, when I get to the Mars-Uranus-North Node piece. Okay, so, but let's talk a little bit more about the new moon. So we got the sun and the moon coming together in a conjunction with Ceres. So whatever this new thing is, on some level, it's involving those themes, right? It's blending those themes, a conjunction, when things are all kind of melted together, so to speak. It's involving those Ceres themes as well, right? And we also have Mercury in Leo. A little farther away, Mercury will be at 18 degrees Leo at the time of the new moon, but Mercury is in pretty much an exact square to the nodes, and therefore pretty much, you know, a very close square to Mars-Uranus Taurus, the conjunction that's happening there, or Mars-Uranus-North Node in Taurus. And so there is something very connected here between the new moon in Leo and that conjunction. And I kind of, I talked about that relationship last time when I talked about the Capricorn full moon and the Saturn piece and things like that. But this is really this, I feel like there's an energy here of sort of like a rocket launcher. Because Mars and Uranus and the North Node together are very electrifying, combustible, shock and awe, that kind of thing. So again, I'm going to talk more about that in a couple of minutes. But so there's a connection here because Mercury is sitting in Leo and it is in square to that configuration in Taurus. And it's in the same sign as the new moon, right? And Mercury is what? The messenger. Mercury is the planet of our thinking, our communications, moving parts, travel, commerce, these sorts of things. The mind, if I hadn't said that already. So I get the sense here that there is something, we may hear some messages, there may be some kind of communications revolving around those themes and revolving around Leo themes. Okay, so we haven't really talked about that. What is Leo? Well, I already mentioned Leo is a fixed fire sign. Leo season in the Northern Hemisphere, which is what Western tropical astrology is based on, which is what I use. And I also use the whole sign house system for those who are interested in that. But Leo is at the height, right? It's the dog days of summer, so to speak, when the sun is at its height in the sky. And Leo is ruled by the sun. So the sun is important here in this new moon, the sun and the moon coming together. And the sun is in the sign of its rulership. So that's significant. And speaking of rulership, Leo is the sign of rulers, right? And leaders. So ideally, Leo is the benevolent leader. So we may hear something about leaders going on. I'm not necessarily saying, benevolent, but ideally, Leo is the benevolent leader. But leaders, rulers, that kind of thing, heads of state, kings, queens, that kind of thing. So there may be something on a more global scale going on that has to do with that. And it may have something to do, like, if this hits your chart very personally, then there may be something going on with solar figures in your life, or leadership or rulership of some description, right? You in that kind of a role. And we'll get to the specifics when we get to all 12 signs. So that's one piece. Leo is also very connected to the heart. Leo rules the heart. So there is a sense of doing things from a very heart-centered approach. Leo at its best, again, can be very enthusiastic, and Leo loves love, loves to shower affection and make other people feel important, but also really craves that in return. And if Leo doesn't get that in return, then they can be a little bit, stingy with their own affection, or they can be, I said, like, there's this sense of childlike enthusiasm, but there can be an immaturity that happens, like a bit of I hesitate to use the expression like childish, but you know what I mean by that. There can be like this melodrama that goes on, and sometimes Leo likes to stir up a bit of drama to kind of just, life's a stage for Leo, right? Leo likes to be seen, noticed, appreciated, all of these kinds of things. And that's there's a place for that. We all have Leo in our chart somewhere, right? And wherever the sun sits in our chart is a place where we see this ideal vision for things. Like we have it's like the ideal vision that we kind of, it can radiate out from us, or we can be drawn to that light, if you know what I mean. And so wherever the sun sits in your chart, if you know your chart and you know what house the sun sits for you, there could be something going on in that particular house at the time of this new moon, right? Because the sun, Leo rules the sun. So the sun is what astrologer Demetra George calls the central organizing principle. And so, of course, it's what everything else revolves around. So there is this sense of like importance, right? Like I am the center of things. And so whatever's happening right now may very much involve us as individuals. So Leo is the sign of the individual, whereas Leo's opposite sign, Aquarius, has more to do with the group, right, and collaborations than it does with with individual kind of contributions, or how we sort of shine our individual light out into the world, right, which is more Leo. And what else can I say about Leo? Okay, so we've talked about sort of the more positive qualities of Leo. Leo can be very good, benevolent leaders, very enthusiastic, very generous, very loyal, very creative and charismatic, these sorts of things. On the flip side, Leo can be, sometimes a bit sort of arrogant, in the extreme cases, narcissistic. There can be, again, like unnecessary melodrama. There can be, leadership qualities, like I'm sort of better than everybody else kind of thing. So everybody must bow down to me, that kind of thing, right? Like, which is the opposite of a benevolent leader. So there's a risk of that kind of thing as well. So it just sort of all depends. But I remind you that this is a new moon that is trine Jupiter in Aries. And we also have Mercury, like I said, in Leo. And Mercury is in a trine with almost an exact trine with Chiron, which is associated with things like healing, and Chiron in our chart is kind of where we grow stronger in the broken places, I like to say. Chiron can have to do with a healing of deep core wounds, where things are sort of fractured, and we are keenly aware of that, and we'll always be aware of it. But if we sort of do the work, it makes us stronger in the end, right? And then we can kind of help other people. And I'm talking about on an individual level. But in terms of the collective, Chiron moving through Aries speaks to this healing of our identity in some way. And what does that mean? Well, our identity for us individually, but also our identity as, I would say as a global kind of family, and what our individual contributions to that are, our identity as humans, and what that means, what it means to be human, those sorts of things. So there is, and Chiron in Aries, it can require us or call us to be courageous, brave, do the difficult, challenging thing. And sometimes to kind of go it alone, because ultimately Aries is the individual. It's sort of that warrior-like energy. So we may be somehow like, how can our individual contributions heal not only our own sense of identity, but how can it help to other individuals as well? Okay. So, hopefully I'm not going off in all directions without notes, and you're able to follow this. Okay, so there's that piece as well, that I thought it was worth bringing in here. But ultimately, this new moon is an opportunity for a new beginning, some kind of a new beginning that is either initiated by you, right? By each of us individually. And whenever we intentionally work with a new moon or a full moon, it's important to recognize that you're going to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak, if you focus on the area of the chart that new moon is falling in for you, right? So again, we're going to get to that when we go through all 12 signs, but Leo falls in everybody's chart somewhere, and this new moon is an initiation or an opportunity to plant new seeds that will grow for not only the next 2 weeks over the waxing half of the moon cycle until the next full moon, which is in Aquarius on August 11th. And of course, I'll be back to talk about that. But also over the next 6 months, when we will have the full moon in Leo, 6 months down the road, right? And, like new moon to new moon even. So we're talking about, we have 13 new moons in a cycle. So you can even look at, this, whatever gets off the ground now sort of has, in a sense, like a life cycle of where it blossoms initially, maybe in a couple of weeks at the full moon in Aquarius, and then furthermore reaches a peak at the full moon in Leo 6 months from now. And then from there, sort of, it's about kind of integrating all of whatever's occurred, whatever new thing has blossomed, and then getting ready for the next new thing in that area, 12, 13 months from now. So, and again, I'll remind you that this new moon being in Leo, it can have something to do with your sense of leadership, creativity, children. Sometimes it can have to do with your sense of wanting or needing to be seen, acknowledged, that kind of thing for who you are. It can have to do with solar themes, right? That we talked about, solar figures, and this idea of radiating, so to speak. Yeah. So when I talk to each sign, I can get a little bit more specific in terms of themes and that kind of thing. I think I'm going to move on now to talk about this Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction, because it's really important, and it's happening right in conjunction with this new moon. Sorry, I need to make a bit of an adjustment here. Sitting on the bed is not the most comfortable. So the Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction, first let me say this. So it's happening at 18, 19 degrees of Taurus, fixed earth sign, right? We've had Uranus moving through Taurus since like the end of 2017, if memory serves me correctly. And Uranus is a little past halfway through that journey in Taurus. And Uranus in Taurus, it has been very disruptive because Uranus is a disruptor, right? It's a disruptive energy. It's an energy of liberation, of freedom kind of seeking. It is an energy of rebellion, of innovation, of insight, and sudden sort of breaks or changes, you know. So when it's in Taurus, a fixed earth sign, we really feel this because Taurus is all about stability, fixed earth, right? It wants to keep things the same, solid, that sort of thing. And Uranus comes in there and is just really shaking things up, quite literally. You know, Taurus is a sign that speaks to things like our food supply, our like our natural resources of all kinds, our money, right? And money systems. It is our sense of safety and security in that it's about like our basic needs, fulfilling our basic needs and how we get those needs met, right? Taurus is very much about that. Taurus is ruled by the planet Venus, which is connected to our resources and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of disruption on all these levels going on. And you don't even have to be paying very close attention at this point to know that that's true. Now, what's happening is the North Node is also there. The North Node is about, you know, I use this kind of blended approach to the North Node. So in evolutionary astrology, the North Node speaks to what we like, our future, what we're moving towards, our trajectory, that kind of thing. And so there is an element of that to me. It's like, you know, the North Node is it's where we're headed in many ways. It is what we are being called to focus on at any given point when we're talking about the transiting North Node. And it is where we're maybe less experienced in some ways, because the South Node, which is opposite the North Node always, in this case the South Node is in Scorpio, Taurus's opposite sign, it's a release point. It's where we are called or forced in some ways to let go, to release, to purge, to also recognize the experiences that we've had and use those to our advantage. Take what works, leave the rest, kind of thing. And then the North Node, you know, it can be, there's this association with the North Node as being, wherever it sits, we have kind of a voracious appetite for that thing. So it can be an amplifier. That's the word I was searching for. The North Node. And in this case, I think that's the best word to use when we've got the North Node, Uranus and Mars coming into this conjunction. The North Node in this scenario is kind of just like amplifying what's already happening there in Taurus with the disruptions that Uranus has been bringing. And then Mars, god of war, you know, comes in and lights a match under it all. And like I said, it's kind of like a rocket launcher. And it reminds me of that, if you're familiar with the Bruce Cockburn song, If I Had a Rocket Launcher. So there is this very volatile energy going on in Taurus. And it's square Mercury in Leo, right? So it's squaring by sign. It's squaring Leo. And because Leo is a fixed sign and the fixed signs square each other. Now it's not exactly squaring the new moon. It's just doing that by sign. But there's a connection here, definitely. And you may have a hard time discerning what's the new moon? what's the Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction, because they're happening right at the same time. And we're already feeling this in some way, right? And we're going to, it will trickle out after the actual event as well. Maybe trickle is not a good word. Actually, that sounds just a little bit too sort of, slow and easy. And this is not slow and easy energy. This is like, boom, North Node, Uranus, Mars in Taurus. And the last time, this does not happen often, okay? So the last time this would have happened, Mars-Uranus-North Node in Taurus at in this particular area of the sky is well over 2,000 years ago. So, like, not in our lifetime, that's for darn sure. This is not an event that happens every day. And so again, it's amplifying whatever has already been going on in Taurus and in Taurian related themes. So globally, right? We already spoke to what that means. And individually, wherever Taurus sits in your chart, this is a moment of when you may have been, you've already felt maybe some of the rumblings and disruptions. But this is a moment of somebody's letting, like, there's a match being lit there, like a rocket launcher, like I said. So we're going to talk about that. And on that note, let's get into it for all 12 signs. So I'm going to speak to, first and foremost, where the new moon is happening for you, where that initiation point is, where if you are intending something new, this is a good place to focus on. But, sometimes the universe has its own plans and new things happen regardless of whether we choose them or not, right? Or intend for them or not. So that's where you can look for some new energy to start to come into your experience. And then I'm also going to speak to where Taurus sits in the chart, which is where you can expect the this sort of volatile energy, this disruptive energy. And that will, the degree to which you feel this always will depend on how it interacts with your personal chart. Like sometimes these things, we witness them more out in the world around us or people's lives around us than we experience them personally, because it's not in any kind of close configuration to anything really important in our chart. So on that note, if you do have planets around the middle degrees of Taurus, so particularly around that 18-ish degree mark, give or take 3-5 degrees on either side, then you're definitely very likely to have a kind of a more personal experience with this disruptive energy, right? Or even potentially if you've got planets in and around that area, that 18 degree point of the other fixed signs as well. So Scorpio in particular, because the South Node is sitting over there in Scorpio right across from this conjunction, right? So if you got planets around 18-ish degrees in Scorpio, or also in Leo and Aquarius, so here brings that new moon piece in again, then you are very likely to feel this more potently and personally. Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to start with Leo, because this is your new moon. So if you are a Leo sun, first, happy birthday to you, and, happy solar return. But if you are a Leo rising, this is happening in your first house. And so when you're listening for these horoscopes, before I really dive in, I will say to all of you that I always recommend you listen for your rising sign first and foremost. That will be the most obvious and accurate and reflective of, what's going on in your life in sort of real time. But you can also, if you don't know your rising sign, you can listen for your sun sign and your moon sign as well. And that will give you definitely information. And if you want to take that a step further, if you're somebody who has a day chart, so born in the day when the sun's above the horizon, then your sun sign horoscope may resonate more. And if you're born at night, the moon may resonate more with you. But ultimately, the ascendant or the rising sign, that's going to be the most accurate when we're talking about these general forecasts. So listen for that if you can first. Okay, so the new moon in Leo for Leo rising, Leo sun and moon as well. But for Leo, if you're a Leo rising, this is happening in your first house, right? So this is all about a new beginning, conceiving of something new. I need to go back just for 1 second. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to edit this out because I don't have time. I told you I would bring that Ceres piece into it. And although I did talk a little bit about it, I just want to give you the connection here where, the Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction is happening in Taurus, the earth sign, right? And we already talked about how it connects to our resources and that kind of thing, and our food supply and agriculture. And remember I said Ceres is the goddess of agriculture, among other things. So I feel like there may be something going on here that speaks to those themes of agriculture, food supply, natural cycles in some way, that sort of thing. Okay, so I had to say that. Sorry, Leo. I'm going to start again with Leo rising. For you, this is happening in your first house. So it's a new moon, a new beginning, an opportunity to initiate something new. New seeds are planted in the area of the chart that's all about you. The first house affects everything else because it is our entrance into the world when we're born. And it therefore reflects our trajectory through life, right? How we steer our ship through this life. And so it affects everything else. It has to do very much when things occur in the first house. We may see them reflected in our physical body somehow. So like, our physical vitality and health, appearance even. But definitely sort of how you come at the world, how you approach the world, how you move through the world, and how the world perceives you. So there's something personal going on here, a personal new beginning at the time of this new moon. So this may be, sorry, I just need to adjust before my hips give out. This may be things like, you can be starting something new. Maybe it's like, it can be all kinds of things. A new job, you get a new job title. You can be getting married, and so therefore, your sort of your title changes, or how you are viewed changes. You can be recognized for something around now. So how you are perceived by the world around you, there's something new about that. You can be taking a new approach to life right now. Something new can transpire in relation to, again, your body, your appearance, your physical vitality, your health. What else can I say about this? With the presence of Ceres there, right close to the new moon, there may be something going on with, it's like a new cycle of life almost. We could say that. We could say it might have something to do with, again, like themes of agriculture, for some folks, or mothering, or women and life cycles. It could have to do with nurturing and our needs. It can have to do with a letting go in some way, that may involve children even. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, or maybe not so much a letting go because it's a new moon, but like there's a new phase, right? A new phase beginning that's being initiated right now. So that's where the new moon is sitting for you, Leo rising in your first house of self, right? And so that's where this new thing is getting off the ground. And then you have Mars-Uranus-North Node coming into a conjunction with or in Taurus. So you've also got, just to back up for a hot minute here, Jupiter is, don't forget, Jupiter is trining this new moon. So Jupiter in Aries is trining this new moon. So there may be, like, the new beginning may have a sense of like upliftment, optimism, buoyancy, good fortune, benevolence, growth attached to it. So I wanted to say that. Now, Mars-Uranus-North Node coming into a conjunction in Taurus. So for you, that's your 10th house of career, of public reputation, of your sense of authority in the world, of your connection to authority figures, in some way. It is about legacy, the legacy you wish to leave, right? Sometimes parenting falls in here too, in some regard. So it's more about like the, sometimes it's more like sort of the authoritarian parent, or the, traditionally we think of a father figure, but it's not always that way. But authority figures in some way, about material security, as well. So there is some disruption going on here. I would say for you as a Leo rising, right? Like, this is not new. Wherever this is happening in anybody's chart, it's not new information in terms of, there's been disruption going on here for several years now. So in relation for you, Leo rising, the disruption to career matters, and all those other 10th house themes that I just spoke of. So that in and of itself is not new, but in this moment when we've got that very powerful conjunction happening, again, it's like a catalyst. That's a word I didn't use in the intro, but very much this is a catalyzing moment where it can launch you, right? In a new direction, or there can be disruptions, changes. What else could happen? There could be a lot of activity with Mars there. Sometimes aggression, right? As far, or competition, when we're talking about Mars-Uranus. But whatever has been going on for you in this area of life is amplified right now. That's putting it baseline simple. And so think about how things have been shifting, changing, disrupted in that area of life, in that 10th house area. And then understand that at this moment in time, there is something being catalyzed or amplified there. And again, if you've got, placements right around that 18-degree mark in Taurus, which is your 10th house. So in your 10th house, that's going to be even more personal for you, right? Or I already mentioned, like in the other fixed signs, Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, or Scorpio as well. Okay, so that's for you, Leo rising. And I'm going to move on now to Cancer. So Cancer, for you, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 2nd house. So it is an opportunity for something new to transpire, new seeds to be planted, something new to be conceived of, some new inspiration that will grow over the next 2 weeks, 6 months, year kind of thing. That has to do with your personal resources, because this is happening in your 2nd house. So something new in the realm of finances, of personal resources. Your resources are also your time and energy, right? This can also speak to, how you get your basic needs met. It's about what you value, what's important to you, your sense of self-worth, these sorts of things. What's sometimes even like, what's going on with your body in some way, because it's, and how you kind of experience the world, through your senses. That's very Taurian, can be implicated here as well. But for a lot of people, it's probably going to have to do with your personal resources in some way, getting your basic needs met, those sorts of things. So there's some sort of an opportunity for a new venture, perhaps, money-making venture, could be on offer, or something you're thinking about starting, that you could be in a leadership role or being recognized some way, because this is in Leo. Could have something to do with creativity, with children, and those second house themes. So whatever this is for you, like maybe, what else could it have to do with? Let me just give it a quick think here. It could have to do with something like your sense of what's important to you may get a bit of a reboot around this time. What you value, or your sense of self-worth, like I said, may get a reboot, an opportunity to begin again. And again, there's that Ceres close to the new moon, so there may be themes of mothering, of moving into a new phase in some way, of natural cycles of children. Something like that may also come into play here, for those of you that's relevant to. And then the other piece that we really have to talk about is Mars-Uranus-North Node, and that's happening in your 11th house. So for you, again, whatever is being disrupted there, it's not new to you. It's not news, right? It's been happening for a while, but there is an amplification of whatever that is, a moment of like, somebody's lighting a match, like I said, in that area. And that area for you is 11th house. So this is about your allies and supporters. It's about friends and groups that you're connected to. It is about your hopes and dreams for the future, and the people that can kind of support you through that, or to get where you want to go, so to speak. So there's been a lot of kind of disruption going on already, or it's our need maybe for liberation in some way, or revolution. These are all Uranian themes. Maybe changes in friendship groups, maybe shifts and disruptions in support systems, or the people that are like I said, helping you get where you want to go. Maybe shifts and disruptions in your vision for the future, right? Your hopes and dreams for the future. And now, again, there's this moment in time where that is all being amplified, and it's like a rocket launcher kind of sort of shifts the direction, or just really like catalyzes the direction that you were maybe hoping to go in, or envisioning. Or maybe it's going to be like something completely out of the blue, new, but it's in this area that you've already been experiencing these kinds of things in, right? Okay, so that's for you, Cancer. And we're going to move on to Gemini now. Gemini rising. This is happening in your 3rd house. The new moon, meaning. So the new moon in Leo happens in your 3rd house. An opportunity to plant new seeds, for initiating something new, for some inspiration, a new, endeavor of sorts, in your 3rd house of community, your daily rituals. So the things that you do on the day-to-day that are really sort of important to you. Also things like in your 3rd house, we're talking about like siblings, friends that feel like siblings, cousins, peers, community members, things that go on in your immediate environment, your community, your neighborhood, close to home, communications, right? Your daily communications, your daily sort of commute even. It can have to do with short trips. It can have to do with moving parts, vehicles, technology, commerce, marketing. The 3rd house is a busy, busy place. So, but you can think of it as sort of, the daily activities almost that you do and the people that are involved in those as well. And then, so whatever new thing this is, right, that's being initiated, it is in relation to the Leo new moon. So listen to the introduction, lots of information there for you. But there could be something going on here involving children. We've got the Ceres piece there involving mothering, involving phases and cycles, involving leadership roles, creativity, enthusiasm in some way, so I know that's a lot. Again, the third house is a busy place, but think about, your own life and what applies to you in the current circumstance, of what I've just said, those third house themes. So, let's see, maybe there's something like, there could be something new going on in the life of a child. There could be something, some information exchanged. This is in the house of communication, that has to do with like leadership roles, or there could be just, I could see there being like fun being had in your neighborhood, in your community, close to home kind of thing. I can see there being some kind of, I don't know why this just came to mind. Things happen. Sometimes it just pop in. Festivities, of some description. There could be news of a leader, an authority figure in your life. There could be a new idea that's sparked, even that you're, communicating, like a lot of conversation could be happening about this, or messages exchanged about this, right now, as this is in your third house. So there could be a lot of sort of short trips going on as well right now, and that may involve kids even on some level, or it might involve creativity on some level. You might be like at the center of whatever is going on in your busy environment as well. So those are all things to look out for. But ultimately, if you're intending on initiating something around the time of this new moon, then the best things to focus on are third house themes, right? Like I said, what's important to you in terms of your daily ritual, things going on in your immediate environment, communications, siblings, peers, that kind of thing. So even vehicles and technology potentially as well. Okay, so I'm going to leave that piece there, Gemini rising, and I want to talk to you just briefly about the Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction and where that's hitting your chart. So for you, that's the 12th house. So there has been some kind of disruption going on, right? I keep saying to every sign that it's not a new thing, like that's coming out of left field entirely, because Uranus has been causing some disruptions for you in terms of the 12th house themes already. And I'll get to what those are in a second. But now at the time, right around this new moon, when we've got this exact conjunction, which is like July 30th into August 1st, but again, it will be felt on both sides of that. But the moment of like real amplification, right, is just after the new moon, in the days following the new moon. And so it's like there's a sudden catalyst in this area for you. There may be a lot of disruption or a real need for liberation, or there may be some kind of battle that happens because Mars is there, or a lot of activity and action. Sorry, the lighting is going really wonky. So for you, this isn't a very private part of the chart. It's the 12th house, where things happen behind closed doors, where things happen that we're unaware of, for a variety of reasons. It might be because it's a bit of a blind spot for us, or it's, something in the subconscious. This can speak to things like dreams, and our spiritual life even. But the 12th house is often associated with retreating from the world in some way, retreating from our daily grind in some way, or just places that are tucked away from the world. So in practical terms, it can involve things like, hospitals, hospices, long-term care facilities, spiritual retreats, places, even vacation places. What else? Detention facilities, rehab facilities. These kinds of things can be implicated here, in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's like an environment that you work in, or that you are looking to work in, or that you're spending time in because of a family member, or potentially yourself. So that's one way. That's one way that this can play out. But again, there's something going on behind the scenes that you may not be entirely aware of, or something going on in the subconscious, or something in private. Sometimes the 12th house speaks to sort of our own, like our self-undoing. So maybe like our bad habits and that kind of thing. Addictions can fall here in the 12th house. It's a place of, in some ways, where things are ending, wrapping up, because it's right before the first house, right? Obviously. So it's kind of associated with, like states of purgatory in a sense. And those ethereal kind of, states of being in some way. So if that makes sense to you, of course, as with everything I say, take what works, leave the rest, right? Your own life and what's happening. And so, some of what I'm saying, you might be like, I don't even know what she's talking about. And other things might be like, oh yeah, okay. Like I can see how that factors in here. So then that means that's for you, right? So nevertheless, this is where the disruption is happening, is in the 12th house. And there's a moment in time here where there is, like I said, a catalyzing event of sorts that is going to kind of launch the next phase, if you will, or be disruptive or liberating in some way, when we've got Uranus there too. But it's a real kind of shake-up moment, right? So sometimes, this just came to mind, and I have to say it because whenever that happens, I feel the need to speak it. Sometimes the 12th house can be about far, far away people and places as well. So, take that for what it's worth for you. All right, so I'm going to leave that there for you, Gemini rising. I'm going to move to Taurus now. Taurus rising. For you, the new moon in Leo is happening in your 4th house. And this is an opportunity for a new beginning, conceiving of something new, intending for something new, a new experience to get off the ground, a new endeavor in some way in your 4th house of home, family, roots, place of living, your sense of emotional security. These are all themes. Parenting, parents. So these are 4th house themes. So some new opportunity, some new development, something being initiated, some new inspiration, what have you, is going on there for you as a Taurus rising. And again, listen to the introduction, because I filled in the details there. We've got the sun, not only the sun and the moon in Leo conjunct, but we have asteroid Ceres is there as well. And for some reason, this is feeling like for a lot of people, there may be some involvement. Like, I get the sense that a lot of people are like natural cycles are kind of ending and beginning, you know, different phases in life are ending and beginning. But also like there may be things involving parenting, involving for some people it will connect to things like agriculture and that sort of thing because Ceres is there as well, but it can be about leadership, rulership, creativity, children, enthusiasm, being seen, acknowledged in some way, admired, you know, in some way, the longing for that even. So there is all of that energy wrapped up here in this new moon. And for you, that is in the fourth house, right? Like I spoke about already. So something new getting off the ground here or being initiated that is going to grow and maybe bear fruit in a couple weeks time at the Aquarius full moon around August 11th. And then in a grander scale, like over the next 6 months to the Leo full moon, 6 months from now. I can't remember the exact date, but 6 months from now. You know, and whatever this cycle is starting now, it's sure to play out over the whole year between now and the next new moon in Leo, reaching a peak at that Leo full moon 6 months from now. So that's the new moon piece for you. Like, you know, let's just think and give a couple of specific examples here, Taurus. So a new beginning in the fourth house could be, a new home or a new apartment or something like that. Or, like a move or some kind of change in your living situation. Something involving parents, a new chapter there. Or parenting, a new chapter in terms of parenting, something new being injected into your emotional sense of security in some way, or something new that stems from your ancestry, your roots, you know, as well. So that's for you in terms of the actual Leo new moon. But Taurus, the other piece that's really important, particularly for you as a Taurus rising, is that you've got Mars-Uranus-North Node coming into a conjunction in your first house, right? So around that 18-degree mark. And it is, again, not new in the sense that there have been ongoing disruptions, feelings of restlessness, rebellion, urge for freedom. I'm thinking, insights, innovations, all of these Uranian words. This has all been going on for you for several years now in relation to yourself. This is in the first house for you as a Taurus rising. So it impacts your whole life. It is about you, your trajectory through life, how the world perceives you, how you come at the world. It can involve your physical being, your appearance, your body, your health, all of those themes. First house is about us. Therefore, it affects our whole lives, right? So as a Taurus rising, it's a big deal. So these disruptions and changes have been going on for you, but now we've got this triple conjunction, right? Which is a rare event happening. And it is amplifying all of that. It is lighting a match under it. It is like a catalyst for whatever changes have been going on. It can feel quite disruptive. There can be some shock and awe, or there can be a lot of like activity, action, courage, on your part, sort of taking up the charge in some way. All of these, all of these things. So look for, like I said, an amplification of whatever changes have already, or disruptions have already been happening there for you, Taurus. And it may directly somehow connect to this new moon in Leo that we just spoke about. All right, so I'm going to leave that there, Taurus. I'm going to move on to Aries now, not even halfway through the signs. So Aries, for you, the new moon itself is happening in your 5th house, right? A new beginning and something being initiated or conceived of that has to do with children, your children or other children in your life in some way, or issues around children, so pregnancy, childbirth, anything like that. It can have to do with creativity, creative projects, your individual sort of creative contributions, how you have fun in life, right? The 5th house speaks to joy and pleasure and how we experience the world in that way. Romance potentially in the 5th house as well. And so look for something new, or perhaps something new is being initiated or conceived of there, like I said, in that 5th house. And again, I bring in, that I spoke about in the intro at greater length, but Asteroid Ceres is there. So there seems to be something going on here about potentially mothering, motherhood, life cycles, mothers and children, agriculture, kind of like what we grow that sustains us, that sort of thing as well here. So there may be something new going on in the life of a child or a child you're associated with, some new beginning there. There might be a new creative project that you're looking at getting off the ground, or some new development there. There may be you being recognized for some kind of individual contribution in some way, or taking a leadership role in some way, shape, or form as well. So, or something new that you're doing for fun even, and pleasure, some new hobby or special interest, or new romance kind of thing, the beginnings of a new romance even. So that's for the new moon piece for you, Aries. And then we also, and of course, Jupiter there is in your sign, right? So Jupiter bringing the optimism, the joy, the abundance, the growth, that sort of thing at the time of this new moon as well. And then the other piece is the Mars-Uranus-North Node in Taurus conjunction, and that is happening in your 2nd house. So your personal finances, your personal resources, right? So resources can be our money, but our time and our energy as well. Even our material possessions, or the material things in our life in some way. It can have to do with what we value and place worth on, and our sense of self-worth. Those are all 2nd house themes. And for you, there's been a sense of disruption, a need for liberation, or maybe a bit of rebellion, some innovation, these kinds of things going on for several years now in that area, because we've had Uranus and Taurus for a while. But now it's meeting up with the North Node, and who is amplifying this, and Mars, which is lighting a match under it. So again, it's a catalyst. It's like a moment where there's a bit of like a rocket launch moment almost, right? Where it's earth shattering in some way, quite literally. So it's not new per se, like the themes are not new, but whatever it is in the moment can feel a bit like it's rattling your cage a bit, or you're taking a lot of action, and you have a lot of passion about this, and drive and will, because of Mars is coming in there, right? And Mars is your ruling planet, Aries. So this can be you. This will be a flurry of activity when it comes to those 2nd house themes, or maybe some impulsivity or anger, or taking charge as well of these things, right? So, okay, I'm going to leave that there for you. Listen to the intro for sure. And I'm going to move it on to Pisces now. So Pisces, for you, the new moon itself is happening in your 6th house as a Pisces rising. And the sixth house has to do with health and wellness routines. It has to do with like daily routines in general. And what I mean by that is more like the work you have to do on the day to day, in terms of like your daily job that you do and you get paid for, and the tasks that are involved, work, like that in that sense. But it can be unpaid work too. What you do at home, it can, how you serve other people. Sometimes the sixth house feels like all the thankless work we do on the day to day. But it can be very much about service, and it can have to do with how that work sometimes impacts our health and wellness. Anything around illness. It can have to do with pets as well in the sixth house. Okay, so for you, Pisces, this is a time when there is an opportunity for something new. Sorry, I have to adjust the old hips here. Something new to get off the ground. You're initiating something new. Something new is being conceived of, coming into your experience that involves these sixth house themes. And it may, because it's in Leo and it's the sun, ruler of Leo, in a conjunction with the moon, and Ceres is also there. This to me reads like something is going on, maybe in terms of health and wellness, and it could involve parental figures. It could involve leaders, rulers. It could involve something having to do with life cycles, parents and children. I'm thinking about the Ceres piece here too. Something about nourishment, nurturing, creativity, even recognition in some way as well, in your daily work, maybe longing to be recognized or being recognized there in some way. This could be about a new pet, even. So I think that gives you quite a bit to kind of chew on as far as where the new moon is hitting. And keep in mind that this new moon, whatever's initiated here, will grow, and there will be some sort of culmination in a couple weeks' time at the full moon in Aquarius around August 11th. And then furthermore, 6 months from now at the new full moon in Leo. And this cycle sort of plays out from new moon to new moon as well, which is a 12, 13-month time frame. But look for peaks in a couple of weeks' time, and then again 6 months' time, in whatever's happening now, whatever's being initiated now in that sixth house. So that's the new moon piece for you, Pisces. And then we've got Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in a triple conjunction in your third house. So there is some new development in an old story. Let's put it that way. Okay, so in a familiar story. So what I mean by that is that Uranus has been disrupting things in your third house for a few years now already, right? So changes, disruptions, sudden shifts, a need for liberation or breaking free in some way. And this all revolves around your third house. So this is like your immediate environment and the people in it. All the things swirling around on the day-to-day, the communications, the back and forth, even the travel pieces, the moving parts, the technology, the commerce, all of that. But also things like potentially siblings, cousins, community members, friends that feel like siblings, that kind of thing. And sort of like the rituals you do on the day-to-day, right, that are significant and meaningful to you. And so there is disruption happening here overall, because Uranus has been shaking things up in that area of life for you, Pisces, for a while. But at the moment, there is this triple conjunction, this rare triple conjunction happening, and it's like a catalyst. It's like, the North Node is amplifying whatever this is, and Mars is bringing the blowtorch, and so, or the rocket launcher. And so it's like a real moment of disruption, of liberation, of launching into the next phase here. There can be a lot of activity, action, even anger and aggression with Mars there. So be mindful of that. There can be, I already said, like a lot of activity. There can be, even accidents potentially for some people. So just like try not to be like rushing madly about at this particular time. Just be a little bit more mindful, sort of thing. So that you can control what you can control, sort of thing. Some things are beyond our control, and this energy is kind of very much has that flavor to it. But it's a catalyzing moment. So, and again, for you, that's in that third house. I already spoke about that. So, the other thing I didn't say as far as the third house is it could be about things like education in some way too, like schooling. Usually we're talking about teaching, learning. We're talking about like elementary school, primary school, even high school, or like learning the basics of things, that sort of thing. That may play a role as well. Okay, so those are the two important things to talk about, the new moon and that conjunction for you, Pisces rising. So I'm going to move on now to Aquarius. Aquarius, for you, the new moon itself is happening in your 7th house of your close personal relationships. This can be things like significant other, right? Or important people in your life, close friends and family members, even like opponents or rivals. It can have to do with contracts and agreements as well. So as an Aquarius rising, there is an opportunity for some new beginning, plant new seeds, to initiate something, to be inspired in some way in the realm of relationship or contracts and agreements, like I said. And there's a sense of enthusiasm potentially here because this is in Leo. There may be something revolving around leadership, rulers, people being recognized, individual sort of contributions, things we create, cycles. Like I keep seeing this sort of handover in some way, or like a change, like a new phase beginning, for some reason, so something along those lines. Could be children involved for some folks. There could be this could be something that's going on in the life of a partner or a significant other as well. So something, some new beginning is happening for them potentially, for an important person in your life. Maybe they might be being recognized, or there's something going on for them that's new. They're initiating something new, or something new is being initiated in terms of their experience, right? And of course that impacts you. So it may look like that as well. But be mindful that, I did mention that the new moon in Aries is in a trine with Jupiter. Sorry, the new moon in Leo is in a trine with Jupiter. So there's a sense of like enthusiasm, buoyancy, optimism, good fortune, growth, abundance going on here. So that's lovely. But then there's the Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction in Taurus, right? That's happening around the same time. And so for you, that's happening in the 4th house of home, family, roots, place of living, ancestry, emotional security, parents, parenting, this kind of thing. And so, there have been disruptions and maybe calls for freedom or feelings for a need to liberate in some way, or changes, shifts, that kind of thing, innovation, insights, shock and awe moments, all of this in that realm of home, family, roots, and all the things I was just mentioning to you there. Because Uranus has been traveling through this area of the sky for you, for this area of the chart for a few years now. But this is a moment when we have this triple conjunction where there is a real rocket launcher effect going on here, right? The North Node is amplifying whatever this is, and Mars is lighting the match, or bringing the blowtorch or what have you. Mars is, when Mars comes in and meets Uranus in the North Node, it's like there's a catalyzing event. There may be a lot of activity going on around home, family, roots, that sort of thing. Real estate, there may be a lot of action, activity, calls for sort of courage. Hopefully not things like aggression and arguments and things like that, but there's potential for that. So just be mindful. Mars is very fiery energy. This is like quite fiery and electric, this combination. So, and there can be like, it's hot, dry energy. Taurus as an earth sign. Mars, brings the heat. So there can be like, literally, okay, I don't know why I just got this, and this is not going to apply to everybody. But there's like this sense of like a crumbling foundation. So maybe for some people, that may be a factor. And that doesn't have to be a huge deal, but maybe you notice like, there's some cracks in the foundation and some things need to be worked on, literally or figuratively. Or things, there can be disruption, sudden changes on the home front in some way as well. So, okay, I'm going to leave that there for you, Aquarius, and I'm going to move on to Capricorn. So Capricorn, for you as a Capricorn rising, this new moon in Leo happens in your 8th house. So new opportunity, new endeavor, new experience, you initiating something new, or something new being initiated for you in the realm of other people's resources. So this can be about your partner's money, or it can be about like shared resources in the sense that it's things like taxes, loans, inheritance, wills, mortgages, what else could be, bursaries, scholarships, debt, all of these things, right, could be implicated in the 8th house. The 8th house is a house where we can feel like we're not in the driver's seat, where things are happening and we're not really in control. And so it can feel a bit like fearful, and we can get a bit obsessive. There is this sense of like a psychological component here. So that could come into play, psychological wounds, and the healing of those. There's a sense of sort of transformation in the 8th house, which is a cliche word, but cliches are cliches for a reason. So there can be a big transformation happening. The beginning of that, on some level, there can be something going on in terms of like your intimate connections with another person or others in some way. And there's something new there. So in real practical terms, what could this look like? Oh gosh, it could look like, and this is in Leo, so there may be children involved. There may be, those Leo themes we talked about, creativity involved in some way. There may be rulership, leadership, a need for sort of recognition, drama, doing it big. There's solar figures in some way, parents, children, because Ceres is there as well. A new phase happening, right? The 8th house is a house of transition. It's very much associated with the cycle of death and rebirth. So that's like, I think about that. I think about phases, right? And for some reason, I really connect Ceres to that. Because of the mythology and such. But so some new endeavor. Okay, so what could this look like? Like I said, in practical terms, a new mortgage, renegotiating your mortgage, a tax bill comes in, or there's a tax return. There is some sort of new experience, or something new going on in terms of children or a child. And it may be like something is sort of like revealed, you know, because the eighth house is like what's kind of in the depths. There could be something along those lines that go on. There could be an opportunity to, you know, start. Maybe there's something going on, or like you're applying for a grant or a loan, you know, and the initiatory phase is there. And there is a trine with Jupiter and Aries here, right? So there's cause for optimism. There's a sense of, you know, good fortune, of luck, of expansion, of growth, connected to whatever's going on at this new moon, which you can expect to reach a bit of a, you know, to blossom in some way around the Aquarius full moon around August 11th. But then furthermore, 6 months from now, at the August full moon, and then, you know, the whole cycle to play out over the 12-13 months until the next new moon in Leo as well. Okay, so that's the new moon piece, Capricorn. And then you've got Mars-Uranus-North Node in a conjunction in Taurus in your 5th house. Again, bringing in children. So let me start by saying this, the disruptions and changes and shock and awe moments and all of that have been going on for a while in this area for you, because Uranus has been in Taurus for a while. But now, meeting up with the North Node and Mars coming in to meet the two, there is a catalyzing moment. There is like a rocket launcher moment, a moment of where things are just like, there's a sudden kind of like opening, you know, and everything sort of shifts. There can be a lot of activity. There can be a lot of action, activity, need for courage. You know, Mars, hopefully not like aggression or arguments or that kind of thing, but or volatility, you know. But all of this, whatever this is, whatever this catalyzing moment here, and this that is reflected in this conjunction, triple conjunction, it's happening in your 5th house of children and things revolving around children in your life. It can also be about how you have fun in life, what sparks joy for you, pleasure pursuits, hobbies, that kind of thing, creative pursuits, your individual contributions, romance. You know, these are all 5th house themes. So look for some disruptions in that area. And when I say disruptions, like, it doesn't have to be like a bad thing, right? But it can feel quite like earth shattering in the moment. So, again, not anything. Oh, my light just burnt out. I thought it was the phone that stopped. So it's getting really dark in here. Earth shattering. That was wild when I said that, and the light just went off. So join me in the dark here for the rest of the video. I'm just going to open the curtain further and see if we can shed a little more light on the situation. This is like, you know, we're just doing it as it comes kind of thing. And that's really what has to happen in relation to this energy, is that you have to go with it. Like, you kind of have to just respond as it comes, right? That Mars piece, a lot of activity, like I said. So that's what's going on for you as a Capricorn rising. And we're going to move now to Sagittarius. I'm going to kind of just shift a little bit here, Sag. So, you know, my light burnt out. And so, you know, I'm kind of like in the dark. So apologies for that. You can see half my face, but we're just going to go with it and keep going here. So for you, Sagittarius, this new moon itself is in your ninth house, right? So it's an opportunity for a new beginning, to initiate something new, to maybe have like something new get off the ground, to be inspired in some way even. And whatever this thing is, it is going to grow over time till you reach a moment 2 weeks from now where there's a culmination of some sort around the full moon in Aquarius, August 11th, or further down the road, 6 months from now, at the full moon in Leo, as well. So the new thing itself, right, is in the ninth house of foreign travel. So like foreign people and places, long distance travel, even higher learning and education in some way, publishing, sort of the quest you're on, in some way, right? Adventure, the expansion of your horizons and worldview and philosophy, justice. These are all ninth house themes. So Sag rising, something new being initiated here by you or by the universe. And you could be feeling quite inspired and uplifted and optimistic because there is a trine from your ruling planet Jupiter, in Aries, to this new moon. There may be something, this may involve creativity, a creative project, it may involve some kind of recognition. It may involve children on some level, a new phase in some way. These are all themes that may be implicated here. Okay, so that's the new moon itself, Sag. And then we've got Mars-Uranus-North Node coming into a conjunction in your sixth house. So for you, as a Sagittarius rising, there have been disruptions in this area of life already, because Uranus has been moving through there for a few years now. But this is a catalyzing moment, a moment where there is a big shakeup of sorts, like where there's really, Uranus and Mars touch the North Node, so there's an amplification of what's been happening, and then Mars brings the blowtorch, so there can be a lot of activity, action, heat, aggression, call for courage. And because this is in your sixth house of illness, health, your daily work, meaning, the daily grind sort of activities. So the work you do, whether it's at your job, the tasks you do on the day-to-day, or it's your unpaid work, that you do, as well. It could be how you are in service. It can involve pets, even in the sixth house. So there's been, this area of life has been destabilized already because Uranus has been moving through there. But we're reaching this moment of, like I said, amplification, and it's like a catalyst. So the disruption reaches a peak moment, right? And it can be like this is something that's, it's kind of launching us forward in some way. It's touching the North Node. And so some kind of shock and awe moment, some kind of, again, disruption. There could be a call for, courage, a lot of activity here with Mars, as I mentioned. Maybe some volatility even, action, these sorts of things. So I'm going to, sorry, there's somebody at my door outside, and I can hear my husband talking, and I don't know who it is, and it's distracting. I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's what's happening as far as that conjunction goes for you. And this is all happening, sort of end of July, beginning of August, when we're really feeling the crux of this. So, that is for you, Sagittarius rising. And I'm going to move on now to Scorpio. So Scorpio rising, for you, the new moon itself is in your 10th house. So there is an opportunity here for planting new seeds, for intending something new, for a new experience, a new endeavor, you know, that involves your career, 10th house, the legacy you wish to leave, your public reputation and image and persona, um, you as a leader or authority figures in your life in some way. Um, yeah, that pretty much covers it. So this is where the new moon is hitting for you, which is quite exciting. And there's cause for optimism because there is a trine between this new moon and Jupiter and Aries. So Jupiter's bringing the oomph factor, the growth, the expansion, the sense of good fortune, that kind of thing, right? But then at the same time, we've got so late August, or sorry, late July, early August is when this is really at its peak. We've got that triple conjunction between Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. And for you, as a Scorpio rising, this is in your 7th house. And the 7th house is the house of one-to-one relationship. So this can be significant others in your life, like a marriage partner or some kind of significant other in your life. It can be about close friends and family members, business associates. It can have to do, business partners with rivals, opponents, or it can speak to contracts and agreements as well. And so, as a Scorpio rising, with this triple conjunction in your 7th house, or think about this, could be something going on in your partner's life as well, right? In a partner, like one of those kinds of partners that I just mentioned, then it then in turn impacts you. So there's been disruption going on in this area of life for the last few years because Uranus has been in there disrupting things, or like it feels like there's a need for liberation or freedom or innovation or rebellion or something like that, or somebody in your life that you're close to can be displaying those qualities. But at this moment in time, with these three bodies coming into a conjunction, there's an amplification. The North Node, right, is amplifying whatever disruption or changes or shock and awe or need for innovation or liberation. The North Node is amplifying that. And then Mars is bringing the heat, the rocket launcher kind of thing. So Mars is like the catalyst, ultimately, that's kind of launching this into the future. It is calling for action, activity, courage. Hopefully not volatility and anger and rage and that kind of thing, because Mars can have that impact as well. But whatever this is, again, it's not new because it's been happening for a while, the disruptions, but this is a catalyzing moment. So you just have to keep that in mind, keep your cool in relationship. And there may be like a new contract or something new going in, or maybe your partner is like has an opportunity for some kind of new endeavor. It's a real big, it's been kind of coming for a while, and now it's like, boom kind of thing. So, okay, so that's for you, Scorpio rising, and I'm going to move on to Libra now. So Libra, for you, the actual new moon is happening in your 11th house. So new moon in Leo in the 11th house of the group, friendships, your hopes and dreams for the future, allies and supporters, right? This kind of thing, networks. So this can even be online communities. So Libra, something new happening here, being initiated by you or by the universe, some new experience that will grow and blossom and reach a first culmination point around the Aquarius full moon, August 11th. And then furthermore, when we have the full moon in Leo 6 months from now. And, you know, you can look for another kind of major culmination point in regards to whatever new thing is happening at the time of this new moon. And that may involve, like I already gave you the 11th house themes, but keep in mind, you know, we're talking about Leo here, and the sun and the moon in a conjunction with Ceres. So there can be something involving children, creativity, individual recognition, leadership, rulers, anything like that. You know, natural cycles and phases, parents, children, like, mothering children, that sort of thing, right? So I'm just, when I'm looking down here, I'm looking at the chart. I have the chart in front of me. So, okay. Yeah, that is the new moon piece. And then for you, the real disruptions are happening in your 8th house, right? So you've got Mars-Uranus, the North Node, coming into a conjunction in the 8th house. So Uranus has been traveling through your 8th house for a few years now, causing some disruptions and such. And these 8th house themes are like, this can have to do with your partner's resources or income. It can have to do with shared resources. So money that you share with others. And this can include things like health insurance or insurance of any kind, taxes, debt, loans, bursaries, scholarships, inheritance. These are all things that can be, that this can play out in, and that the disruptions have been playing out in, where we can feel like we're not in control in the 8th house. And that can feel a bit scary, right? So our fears can come into play here, our psychological wounds, our intimate relationships and connections with others can all play a role. And so there's been disruption happening. And now at this moment in time, late July, early August, there is a catalyzing event. There is, Mars brings the blowtorch to the party, and we've got, you know, the North Node amplifying. There's disruptions. So there can be disruption to partners' income, for better or worse. You know, there could be like some kind of shock and awe moment with regards to an inheritance, some kind of like shared resources, like I mentioned. There's, you know, like there is, the 8th house is associated with like this notion of death and rebirth. So some sort of transformation. So, you know, again, not new per se, but a moment in time where it's really amplified. So try to keep your wits about you. There could be a lot of activity going on, challenges, action, hopefully not volatility, you know, arguments, that kind of thing, because Mars is there and that can happen. But that's what you're looking at around this time. So, but that new moon in the 11th house is quite lovely, right? So, okay, we're going to leave that there for you, Libra rising, and I'm going to move on to, last but not least in this situation, we've got Virgo rising. My fellow Virgo risings, I'm a Virgo rising here. So, okay, we have the new moon happening in the 12th house. So new moon in Leo in the 12th house. There is some opportunity for a new endeavor, something new to get off the ground, something new to be initiated, a new experience, in the realm of 12th house themes, which can get quite complex. So the 12th house can speak to our blind spots, things we're not aware of, things that are happening behind the scenes. It can also speak to things like, you know, practical things like anything involving like hospital, hospice, long-term care facility, retreat in some way, like spiritual retreat, vacation retreat, anything that's kind of like taking us away from, like, you know, the daily, you know, our daily kind of like life or daily order in some way. What we would think of, it can involve our spiritual life. It can involve dreams. It can involve things like our addictions and that sort of thing as well. So what else could I say? There's something here. So there can be, I talked about this a little in the intro, but just to review for you here, Virgo rising, this new moon in Leo, there's something that can have to do with children. It can have to do with leadership in some way. It can have to do with being recognized for something, seeking recognition. It can have to do with creativity, individual contributions. And there can be something here about like a new phase, I feel like, happening in some way, a new life cycle, a new something along those lines. Some sense of like nurturing, mothering role for some people as well. Because Ceres is there, right, in conjunction with the new moon, like I talked about in the intro. So, and this new moon will culminate initially at the full moon in Aquarius on August 11th. So you can look for like something to kind of blossom there. And then 6 months down the road at the full moon in Leo, we'll see another culmination point. Okay, so that's the new moon piece for you. And don't forget, this is in a trine with Jupiter in Aries, right? So this brings a cause for optimism, good fortune, growth, expansion, opportunity, that kind of thing. So that's good news. And then Virgo rising, the triple conjunction of Uranus, Mars, and the North Node is happening in the ninth house for us, right? And I say us because, like I said, I'm a Virgo rising. So there have been disruptions and changes going on here already because Uranus has been traveling through this area of the sky for a few years now. But we're reaching a moment of real shift, a catalyst happening, a rocket launcher moment, like I've been saying, in this area of life that has to do with things like higher learning, our worldview, the quest we are on, people and places at a distance, what we learn from people that are different from us, educational endeavors like higher learning, teaching, publishing, justice, sometimes religion, our worldview, right, in general. And so these themes have been experiencing some shakeups, and now there is a catalyzing moment here where there's a lot going on all at once, and there is an amplification of whatever's been transpiring already. There can be a need for a lot of activity, action, courage, because Mars is there. Even, excuse me, things like heated discussion, debate, with Mars, like in the ninth house, hopefully not arguments, that kind of thing. I would say maybe try to stay out of arguments where it's kind of like your worldview versus somebody else's, at this time, because they're likely to be quite volatile. Yeah, so I think that pretty much does it. This is at its peak at the end of July, early August. So, just keep your wits about you. And this could be like really launching you into the future in some way, but it could just kind of feel a bit disruptive in the moment as well. So, okay. There could be politics involved here too in the ninth house. I feel like I just have to say that before I sign off. So, okay, that's it. I've gone through all 12 signs. Even though I said this was a short video, it is so not. And it goes to show me that maybe notes are better than off the cuff for me. Okay, so I hope you got something valuable out of this, and I will catch you again in 2 weeks' time. You can find me on my website, astrologymaven.com. And I will see you in a couple weeks here on YouTube. Okay, bye for now.